Welcome to Norway Perspectives, brought to you by Norway Relocation Group. In this episode, we're going to focus on a force that governs every aspect of life in Norway, yet it often operates in complete silence. It's a force that can determine your right to work, your access to housing, your children's education, and your financial stability. We are talking about deadlines. I know it might not sound like the most exciting topic, but if you are building a life in this country, understanding how the Norwegian system handles time and deadlines is not just important, it is one of the most critical survival skills you can acquire. You might expect that for major life events, like renewing your residence permit, filing your taxes, or applying for your child's school, there would be loud warnings, personal phone calls, or a flurry of reminders. But that is not the Norwegian way. Here, deadlines are often communicated just once through a formal message delivered to your digital mailbox, written in bureaucratic Norwegian. And from that moment on, the system assumes you have received the message, understood it, and will act accordingly. There are no follow-up calls, there are no friendly reminder texts. The system moves forward, with or without you. And what happens if you miss one of these quiet deadlines? The consequences can be swift and severe. You can face significant delays in securing housing, a sudden loss of public benefits, steep fines and financial penalties, the outright rejection of critical applications, missed spots for your children in local schools, and perhaps most seriously, the creation of gaps in your legal residence history that can jeopardize your entire future in Norway. This episode is about how the Norwegian system perceives and enforces time, and what happens when you fall out of sync with its relentless rhythm. We are going to explain the most important deadlines that every newcomer must be aware of, from your first week in the country to your application for citizenship, the unwritten rule of Norwegian, a public administration, that you are expected to know your own obligations, how the silence of the digital system doesn't mean nothing is happening, it often means a critical clock is ticking, and how a single missed date, even by a few days, can trigger a cascade of long-term problems. Let's begin with the foundational principle you must internalize to succeed here. In the eyes of the Norwegian public system, you are expected to know. From the moment you are issued a Norwegian identity number, whether it's a temporary D number or a permanent national ID number, the government's operating assumption changes. You are no longer viewed as a visitor. You are viewed as a resident who is fully integrated into the digital state. The system assumes you are capable of managing your own administrative life, and that includes tracking and meeting all relevant deadlines. This assumption holds true even if you don't yet speak fluent Norwegian, even if you are overwhelmed with the stress of moving, even if you misunderstood the form, and even if you never saw the message. The plea of "I didn't know" or "no one told me" is not accepted as a valid excuse in any official capacity. The responsibility rests entirely with you. So let's take a tour through the various systems and see where these quiet deadlines lurk, starting with the one that impacts every single resident, the immigration clock. The unforgiving world of immigration deadlines. For any non-EU citizen, your relationship with the Norwegian Directorate of Immigration, or UDI, is managed by a series of the most unforgiving deadlines you will ever face. Missing these doesn't just cost you money, it can cost you your right to be in the country. The most critical deadline is for the renewal of your residence permit. For most permit types, whether it's for a skilled worker, a student, or a family member, the law is explicit. You must submit your application for renewal at least 1 month before your current permit expires. Not 1 week, not 2 weeks, 1 month. Let's walk through what happens if you miss this. Imagine your permit expires on October 31st. The absolute latest you can apply for renewal is September 30th. If you apply on October 1st, you have missed the deadline. In this scenario, UDI may not even process your application. They may reject it on procedural grounds, informing you that you no longer have a legal basis of stay in Norway. You could be required to leave the country and apply all over again from your home country, a process that can take many months, during which you cannot work or live in Norway. Your employment would be terminated and your life would be thrown into chaos. Even if jeopardize shows some flexibility and allows you to apply late, you will have created a gap in your residence. This is a period of time where your old permit has expired and your new one has not yet been granted. This gap is catastrophic for your long-term plans. To qualify for permanent residency in Norway, you must demonstrate a period of continuous, uninterrupted legal stay, typically for 3 years. A gap of even a single day can break this continuity, resetting the clock on your journey to permanent residency to 0. You would have to start the 3-year count all over again. This is not a theoretical risk. It happens every year to people who simply were not monitoring their permit's expiry date closely enough. The notification from UDI about your upcoming renewal arrives in your digital mailbox. It does not come to your personal email or as a text message. If you are not in the habit of checking your DigiPost or eBox account, you could easily miss the single most important administrative warning of your year. The same unforgiving logic applies to immigration appointments. When you apply for a permit, you will be summoned to an appointment with the police or a service center to submit your biometrics, your fingerprints and photo. You will be given a specific date and time. If you miss this appointment without a documented, serious reason like a medical emergency, your entire application can be cancelled on the spot. You would lose your application fee and have to start the entire multi-month process from the beginning. Now let's turn to the annual rhythm that governs our financial lives, the tax timeline. The Norwegian tax system is a yearly cycle with several key deadlines. It begins in January with your tax card. While there is no hard deadline for changing it, the silent deadline is as soon as possible. If you wait until the end of the year to correct your estimated income, you will have already underpaid or overpaid tax for months, setting yourself up for problems. The first major hard deadline arrives in the spring. Your tax return, the skattemelding, must be reviewed, corrected, and submitted by April 30th. As we've discussed in a previous episode, if you do nothing, the system finalizes the return based on incomplete data, but missing the deadline to submit your changes can result in a fine for late submission, and it flags your file for potential future scrutiny. After you file, you will receive your tax assessment, the skatteoppgjør, sometime between June and October. This document tells you if you owe more tax or if you are getting a refund. But hidden within this document is a new, crucial deadline. You have 6 weeks from the date you receive your assessment to appeal it. If you believe the tax office has made a mistake in their calculations, this 6-week window is your only opportunity to file a formal complaint. If you miss it, the assessment becomes final and legally binding, even if it contains errors. If you do owe back taxes, what Norwegians call restskatt, the assessment will also contain firm deadlines for payment, usually split into 2 installments in late summer and autumn. Missing these payment deadlines will result in the immediate accrual of interest, and if the debt remains unpaid, the Norwegian National Collection Agency will begin a process to recover the money, which could include deductions from your salary or liens on your property. Next, let's consider the deadlines that shape your family's life. At a local level, schools and kindergartens. If you have children, you must understand that access to public services like kindergarten or barnehage is managed through a centralized application process with a strict national deadline. The main application round, the hovedopptak, typically has a deadline of March 1st for a spot beginning in August of the same year. If you miss this deadline, your child is not guaranteed a spot. You can submit a late application, but you will be placed at the bottom of the waiting list, behind everyone who applied on time. This could mean your child has to wait months or even another year for an available spot. It could also mean being offered a place in a kindergarten far across town, creating a daily logistical nightmare for your family. The communication about these deadlines comes from your local municipality, your commune, and is almost always sent to your digital mailbox in formal Norwegian. It is a similar story for registering for school and for after-school care programs. known as SFO or AKS. These also have firm deadlines in the spring. Missing them can complicate your child's smooth entry into the Norwegian education system. Let's also talk about the relentless, high-frequency deadlines you will face if you ever need support from NAV, the Labor and Welfare Administration. If you are receiving unemployment benefits, you live your life in a 14-day cycle. Every 2 weeks, you must submit your digital employment status card. So the deadline is absolute. If you are late, your payment for the days you were late is deducted. If you forget entirely, your benefits are stopped completely until you re-engage with the system. If you are on sick leave, there are deadlines for submitting your follow-up plans with your employer. If you receive any kind of support from NAV, they may send you a request for more information, often with a response deadline of just 1 or 2 weeks. If you miss that deadline to respond, they are legally entitled to stop your payments or close your case, assuming you are no longer in need of the benefit or are unwilling to cooperate. NAV almost never calls. The communication is digital, and the responsibility to see it and act upon it is yours alone. Let's trace the typical life cycle of a missed deadline to see how one small error can cascade into a much larger problem. Imagine you miss the deadline to renew your residence permit. Phase 1. The deadline passes. On the day after the deadline, nothing happens. There is silence, no warning bells go off. Phase 2. The system takes automatic action. A few days or weeks later, UDI system will automatically register your application as invalid or late. If you try to log in, you may see your status has changed. If you are stopped for an ID check, the police will see your permit has expired. Phase 3. The formal notification arrives. You will receive a formal decision letter, a vedtak, in your digital mailbox. It will state that because you missed the deadline, your application is rejected and you may be required to leave the country. Phase 4. A new, more urgent deadline is created. This decision letter is not the end of the world, but it starts a new, much faster clock. The letter will inform you of your right to appeal the decision. The deadline to appeal is typically just 3 weeks. If you miss the second deadline, the rejection becomes final and legally irreversible. You have lost your chance to fight the decision. This is how a single missed date creates a chain reaction of new, more stressful, and more urgent deadlines. Given all of this, how can you protect yourself? How do you build a personal system to manage this silent but relentless clock? First, you must cultivate the habit of the weekly digital check-in. Every week, perhaps on a Sunday evening, make it a ritual to log into your essential digital portals, DigiPost or eBox, Altien, and if relevant, NAV.no. Scan for any new messages. Even if a message looks like a generic notification, open it and read it. Second, become a master of your digital calendar. The moment you become aware of a deadline, your permit expiry date, the tax deadline, a scheduled appointment, put it in your calendar immediately. Don't just put one reminder, put 3. One for a month before, one for a week before, and one for 2 days before the deadline. Third, act early. Never wait until the last day to submit an application or respond to a request. Digital systems can have downtime. You might discover you're missing a document, or you might need time to get a question answered. Give yourself a buffer. Fourth, understand the Norwegian way of counting. Many official plans use week numbers or uker. Familiarize yourself with this system. A deadline set for uke 45 is specific and binding. And finally, know when to ask for professional help. If you receive a letter you don't understand, if you are facing a complex application, or if you have already missed a deadline and need to navigate the appeals process, don't try to handle it alone. In conclusion, life in Norway operates on a quiet, efficient, and digital rhythm. The system places immense trust in you, the individual, to manage your own timeline. This can be empowering, but it is also a great responsibility. The clocks are always ticking and the system does not forgive delay. By understanding how time is measured and enforced here, and by being organized and by staying vigilant, you are not just avoiding fines and penalties. You are actively building a stable, secure, and predictable life for yourself and your family in your new home. At Norway Relocation Group, a key part of our work is helping newcomers build this very system. We help you identify, track, and meet the critical deadlines that govern your life here, from residence permits and tax submissions to school applications and address changes. And at our partner school, NLS Norwegian Language School, we focus on teaching you the language of real life in Norway. We equip you to read and understand the formal Norwegian used in these official letters, deadline notifications, and digital forms, so that you never again have to feel the anxiety of missing a critical message. For expert help in navigating Norway's timelines and public systems, visit us at norwayrelocation.no. To learn the language of legal, digital, and administrative life, you can find our courses at nlsnorwegian.no. Thank you for joining us for this essential guide. Subscribe, share this episode with anyone who needs to hear it, and stay ahead of the deadlines before they catch up with you. As always, we'll see you in the next one.